Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to the podcast Hidden Points, where we
discuss our hidden points tied to all things career services and professional development.
My name is Kevin Huang. I am one of the career coaches here for the College of Health and Public Service, specifically supporting criminal justice majors, emergency administration and planning, as well as public administration.
Yes, and my name is Maya McMillan. I'm the career coach, one of the career coaches for the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. I meet with students pursuing mass communication, so media arts, communication studies, dance and theater, and I believe English. So all the writing, all the media, a little bit of performance, all things related to that.
All good things, right? We're all here to support the students.
Yes.
First, just to point it out, check out the rest of our podcast episodes. Right now, they're uploaded on both the Denton Community Television as well as the Career Center at UNT YouTube channel, so check those out.
Yes.
But also, let's talk about today's topic.
Yes, today's topic is resumes and the dreaded cover letter. Cover letter does not have to be dreaded, but let's be honest, no one looks forward to it.
Right, exactly.
No one wants to do it.
Right. But first, we'll talk about the resumes, and then we'll get into the cover letters. So my first question, so we can just talk about it. When you think of resumes, what comes to your mind first?
When I think of resumes, I think of a one-page summary in writing. So kind of excluding, for my media arts students, excluding your actual visual work, but it's just your work in writing. Could be a page. I'm sure students now are hearing it needs to be a page, but if you have the experiences, you might go over a page. But basically a summary.
Yeah, and how I see a resume is it's your first impression to anyone who looks at it, whether it be an employer, hiring manager, hiring committee, if you're going for an internship, if you're going for a full-time job, if you're even going for a student job opportunity on campus,
right.
That's going to be your first impression. Even when meeting us, I think the first thing we ask for is a resume. What does that look like? Because we want to understand your experiences and understand how we can help support you on your career development journey, right?
Yeah, we assist with all of that. So if you have a resume that you've already started with, but you're sure that it needs some tweaking, it needs some editing, and you're just not 100% about, we can make it better, or we can help make one from scratch. But the resume is more so the easier document, in my opinion, and that doesn't mean you'll love it or you'll love making it, but with the right template in mind, it can be a lot simpler to put together.
Yeah, for sure, and take some effort. I think for my resume, I've definitely taken years to perfect it or work on it. Even doing this job, it's definitely improved my resume writing, and it's definitely a skill you gain throughout some time and experiences and help and support
Right.
others. So feel free to stop by and check out one of your career coaches to ask for some resume advice, because they can give you a third-party perspective of what it looks like and how it can be improved.
Right, based on our experiences too. So we're not just telling you what we think works and it really doesn't work.
Right.
We're giving, critiques and advice based on what we've heard throughout our times and our careers, and then also just based on what we learn, in training and in the Career Center. So when was the first time that you made your resume, and do you remember what you had on it or what you were probably missing? What information you were missing?
Yeah, I think I did my first resume in middle school, maybe 8th grade.
That's
I believe.
early.
It was early. So because it was so early, I did not have any work experience on my resume. I think the closest thing to work experience was probably snow shoveling or babysitting my younger brothers, and that's probably about it. And I had that on my resume. I looked at it recently, I think over the winter break, when I went home, I got to see, oh wait, there's my resume from way back when. Probably it was a really bad resume, right? And that's where I started. And you can start anywhere you want, but that's where I started really early. What about you, Maya?
The first time I made one was in high school. So I'm laughing at you starting in middle school, but I probably made one like right out of middle school. And that was because once I turned 16, maybe even 15, that's when I started looking for my first job. And so that's when I needed a resume was, for those applications. And to start that search, could not tell you what my resume looked like, but I'm sure it was missing a lot of information, valuable information too.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually you'll get more of that experience, especially with that part-time job or that, job.
Because it was part-time. I was
Right.
not full-time.
Exactly. So you're going to build on that eventually, and that goes with any kind of part-time job, whether it be on campus, whether it be an internship, or, maybe something off campus too. So
Yeah,
that's something really important. So
most definitely.
yeah, so my question for us to talk about now is, when did you first work on your resume with intentionality and why? But I guess you kind of answered it because you were looking for a job with your
Yes.
resume. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I made the resume for the first time when I was looking for that first job as a teenager. And then I would say the first time that I was actually more intentional with what went on my resume was in college and undergrad. And that was when I was looking for my first internship. So yeah, that was the first time I actually went to the Career Center and sought help outside of what my parents showed me, which, loved them. There was nothing wrong with the information they were helping me with, but I was like, okay, I need an internship today. What am I missing? And they helped me fill in a lot of those empty gaps.
Yeah, I think for me, the first time would probably be my first student job on campus. That was in college. So I needed to find something part-time just to sustain myself, as a lot of us do, right? Trying to pay for college, but also trying to live and figure things out. So that was the first time I was like, oh, I need a job, so I need a resume. So I think I got some help somehow. I don't know who I got help from, thinking back, because my parents I'm a first generation college student, so my parents didn't know how to do like resumes and all that stuff. So it must have been someone close to me, or maybe a professor that could have helped me with my resume. And then just moving forward, after working with a lot of people on a campus, you get used to making a resume and trying to figure that out.
Right. Yeah, because some professors do share, if they have the time, they do share, their knowledge and what they know about job searches, but also just like what goes on in a resume for whatever industry it is they're teaching about. So that's a good point. If you're not learning about it from the Career Center, it could be from your peers, from professors, from mentors if you have them. I know a few students who will book with us or meet with us, and they'll say, oh, I got the template from a friend because they got a job with this template. So whatever works. We won't argue against it. We might just help you to improve it if we see that it's lacking in some areas.
Right.
But that's a good point. So knowing how much people know about resumes, I feel like I hear very little about cover letters and what you need on a cover letter. So when did you first learn about cover letters, or when did you first become familiar with like a cover letter and what purpose it serves?
Good question. I think I wasn't really serious about cover letters until I applied for grad school. And, it's like a mix of, it's a personal statement / cover
Yes.
letter.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, they're very similar. Okay.
About the personal statement. Yeah.
It's very similar. And obviously, after grad school, finding a job. That's really important, to have a really good cover letter.
Yeah.
Because cover letters just show off who you are as a person.
Yeah.
A little bit more beyond what is like showcased on your resume.
Right.
And that's important, because sometimes your resume is just your work experiences, and it doesn't really show that personality, that passion, maybe that motivation of why you started what you started.
Yes.
For example, I'm in the higher education field as well as Maya, so understanding why we got to this place and what we want to do and how we want to support students was really important to put on a cover letter.
Yes.
And if I didn't have a cover letter, they would never know why I did and why I started grad school or what I intend to do eventually. So cover letters are very, very useful, and they were very useful for me applying to grad school, getting into grad school, because that was one of the big main points of why I was a good candidate for grad school.
Was because of your letter.
Yeah, my faculty were like, this is a fantastic personal statement. We would love to get to know you a little bit more, and then further on have an interview process, right? And then eventually, finding a full-time job. A lot of folks read cover letters, especially for very, very serious higher education jobs. So if I don't have a cover letter for these kind of jobs, it's going nowhere, right?
Right.
What about you?
Exactly. I feel like cover letters are that they're definitely they're a document that's really big on like intentionality. So anyone can say what they've done on their resume, what they learned from it, but anything, like you said, that doesn't fit on your resume can go on the cover letter. So you don't want your cover letter to be an entire repetition of your resume, but be very intentional with your passions, what drew you to the major you chose or the career you're pursuing. But just like Kevin said, I see it as a personal statement. Some students might think, personal statement and a cover letter, like those are very different, but really they have the same idea in mind, which is, kind of telling your story. So like what drew you to that? So like a perfect example, you said you used it for your grad school application.
Right.
And I think I first used it for like the internship search too. But even knowing how you were drawn to higher ed with your housing experience, that's a good excuse or a good reason to talk about, your experience in housing, how you got started in housing, because on your resume you might not say this is what drew me to housing,
right?
But on your cover letter you can. So yeah, cover letters have gotten easier to make with the right template, I would say. I have one that I use, and it's just like pulled from my cover letter but stripped of the actual information. And with the right template, you can write a really good cover letter. But if you also just see it as telling your story, that kind of, removes a little bit of the fear, the anxiety that comes with writing one.
Yeah, and as you go through life experiences, as you gain more experiences, internships, work experience, your cover letter is going to change and it's going to evolve. It's going to have more experiences and qualifications and skill sets that you're going to offer in that personal statement, in that essay that you can talk about.
Yes.
And you can make it however you want, right? And eventually it's going to sound really, really impressive. Maybe like when you first start making your cover letter, it might not be the most impressive thing that you have.
And that's okay.
That's all right. Yeah, and that's what we're here for. But also, if you start to work on your cover letter, maybe you meet a career coach and then they advise you on a direction. Maybe you have a certain career in mind, or maybe a future in mind, and you want to head towards that, but you're missing some components. Maybe it's in your cover letter, maybe it's in your resume. But as long as we can hone in on that and think about how you can obtain those experiences, then we could put that on your cover letter, then we could put that on your resume, and it's going to make you an overall really strong candidate for the field that you're going into.
Yes, I agree. And definitely, if you think a cover letter is not as important as the resume or doesn't serve as great of a purpose, just remind yourself that so I always say never, complete an application without both. Because writing up a cover letter and then submitting a cover letter is what will make you stand out from the next candidate. So if you think, I don't want to take the few minutes to write one, or I don't need to put it for this application, which granted, some applications don't require a cover letter.
Right.
You can get hired without one. It depends on the company and everything, but just think what you won't do, the next person will. So what can you do to stand out from other candidates, to make yourself more marketable and to showcase that you're willing to go above and beyond for that job? and to
Right.
assert yourself.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And it's a little extra effort, but maybe that effort brings you a lot further into the process, right? Maybe that effort gives you the interview that we're trying to go towards.
Yes.
Because they only see a resume, but if you have an additional cover letter, they might like that a little bit more. Like, for example, if you're applying to a job, it's very competitive, and 100 candidates with the same background, same
100.
education, same experiences as you, work related, right, on your resume.
Yes.
And you're all competing against each other. But maybe 75% of those folks don't have cover letters, and maybe 25% do. And you're amongst that 25%. Then you
Yes.
have a higher chance of being looked at potentially because they have a better look into who you are as a person
Right.
and whether you can fit on a team. And that's typically what you're looking towards. Sometimes there are jobs where you're not really a part of a team, but most of the time, almost all of the time, I feel there is some kind of team component, and you have to try to fit within that kind of like circle of folks, right?
Yes, because and that's a good way to look at it too, because obviously when you submit applications, you're not sure how many other people are applying for that. It's almost like submitting it and then hoping for the best. So when you look at it on that scale of like 100 other people applied for the job, that really sets in motion like, okay, where do I stand amongst those 100 applicants? So great way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we're wrapping up a little bit. So do you think it was very effective for your job search process? I mean, obviously we're currently working.
We're here, right? Exactly, and I think definitely both documents have helped in my search to get to this point, but also just to get to this point in my career. That was using the right application documents, the right information, communicating my information in the right way, and yeah, and then also I guess utilizing the right resources. But that's another thing too that is really important with both documents. It's a matter of how you communicate your experience. So we always say too on a resume, be as descriptive and as detailed as you can. So obviously the specifics of what you did in that job. For example, like if you worked in retail and say like you worked at H&M, like we know what the day-to-day duties kind of consist of, but it's all about how you communicate those responsibilities. How well can you communicate what your responsibilities were? And then what did you learn from that? Do you even think you learned something from it? That all makes a difference in how the employer, sees you as a potential candidate.
Yeah, for sure. So they're very, very important documents, and we gotta work and put effort into them.
Yes, a lot of effort
A lot of effort
and time.
and time. But to summarize everything that we've talked about today,
Yeah.
so the first thing is obviously your resume. Your resume is super important. One of the most important things you need for applying, because it's the first impression you have for an employer or a hiring manager. It gives all of their experiences in there, your skills. Maybe you have some certificates that you want to present. Maybe your
Yes.
GPA is really high. Maybe it's a 3.8 and you want to impress that employer. It's all there on your resume. It's the first thing they'll see, especially with all of the software applicant tracking systems that they have to figure
Yes.
out whether you fit qualifications.
Yes, use those keywords because employers take roughly 15 to 30 seconds to look at a resume, could be less than that. So in those 15 to 30 seconds, they will not bother to spend time on any, grammatical errors, any details left out. So keywords really help you stand out amongst other candidates, and they help make the actual like reading and searching process a lot easier for employers. So other things we touched on today is cover letters. Cover letters tell an employer who you are. They're another way to reassert yourself as a potential candidate and to further explain anything that you could not fit on a resume.
Yeah, and also you have the ability to show that you've researched that company or department or agency, wherever it might be, and show them, hey, I'm excited to be a part of this project. I'm excited to be a part of the company because of these values, this mission, and it connects back to who you are as a person and your experiences. So
Yes.
that's something you can also present on the cover letter. And also remember that this is a lifelong learning process. A resume and cover letter isn't perfected. Maybe even when you're in undergrad, right? As you move forward, as you gain more experiences, it's going to develop, it's going to grow, and it's going to evolve into something that might be really, really good.
Yes.
But right now, it's all about starting it, trying to create something that's very strong so that you're going to be a strong candidate right outside of undergrad to be hired, right? That's what we all want, right?
That's what we all want, is to be successful, but to also, reach our goals, accomplish our goals. And, it's all about striving further and further into your careers and just kind of elevating too with each experience. So with each experience or with each job internship, you have newfound experiences that you can now add to those documents, newfound skills that you've gained from each, and also newfound references that will help you, get to that next point. So with each job and experience, update your documents, include information that, you may have not had before that now will help you for the next opportunity.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
work on perfecting both.
Yes.
So that you can present your best self. So you can have the highest chance of success. That's important. And sometimes you have second chances, sometimes you don't. So it's really about showing yourself off perfectly or close to perfect, right? Best impression at the start so that you have that high chance of succeeding. So we just want you all to succeed, to land that job, and to just find your way, find your life.
Yes, exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Just a few announcements too. So we do still have career fairs and our networking events happening throughout the semester. So you can go to Handshake under events and look at all the details for our events, look at locations, times, how many or what employers will be at all of our events. They're great recruiting opportunities. So if you are internship searching right now, because it is internship season, we encourage you all to go to those events, take advantage, network with employers, and you never know, you might get an interview on the spot.
Yeah, and it's free as a student, so and as alumni. So I'm sure we have other folks that aren't alumni or students that come by too, that just want to check out our career fairs. So always accessible to you all. You can go to any, even if your major is very specific. Maybe you're a criminal justice major, but you want to go to the business career fair. You can do that, 100%.
Yes.
A lot of things are transferable. You have a lot of skills that are transferable. So don't be afraid of going to other career fairs that might not be labeled as your specific major.
Your major, yes, good point. Because any employer might need help in certain areas that do align with your major. So like this week alone is the sports management fair. Even if you're not a business major, still take advantage. And if you're nervous before going into those fairs, or you feel like you don't have your things together, book an appointment with a career coach and we can help you prepare for those fairs. Yeah.
Sounds good.
And last but not least, this is our birthday episode for Kevin. So by the time this comes out, his birthday will have passed.
Yes.
But if you see Kevin in these streets, wish him a happy belated birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Maya. I really do. But with that, I guess we're finished with this episode. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for listening in. Hopefully you'll tune in to the next episode.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Sounds good.
See
I'll
y'all
see you all
soon.
next time.